Hey gang, just to let you know, you can now use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, at flipsidegaming.com and originalmagicart.store. Using the code gets you 10% off orders $10 or more, and you get to help out the channel at the same time. Before we get into today's game, big congratulations to David Cassie. He won the Ultimate Masters box giveaway. I've sent him an email and so has Flipside, and once we hear back, his box is on the way. This week's game finds us back at Platinum Star Games, and I'm borrowing John's Ruric Thar deck, keeping Arbor Elf, Crystal Ball, Lifecrafter's Bestiary, Manglehorn, Courser of Krufix, and 2 Forests. Tom is playing his Rubinia deck, keeping Swords, Birds of Paradise, Eldamri's Call, Supreme Verdict, Flooded Grove, Prairie Stream, and Temple of Mystery. Brian, who's new to the channel but a regular at the shop, is playing his Bruna deck and keeps a Deathless Angel, a Karmic Guide, Breath of Life, and 3 Plains. Last but not least, you'll remember him well, Joe is playing Selvala, keeping a Plains, Canopy Vista, Avengers Zendikar, Cathar's Crusade, Hooded Hydra, Helm of Possession, and Heroic Intervention. Brian wins the die roll and starts us off. Brian plays a Plains and passes turn. Joe plays a tapped Canopy Vista, passing. I play a Forest, and I cast an Arbor Elf, passing to Tom. Tom plays a Temple of Mystery, scrying 1 and keeping it on top. Brian draws and plays a Terramorphic Expanse, cracking it and passing turn. Joe plays a Plains and passes. I play a Forest, and I tap out, using my Arbor Elf to help pay for Courser of Krufix. I reveal a Forest off the top of my library, and I pass my turn. Tom plays a tapped Prairie Stream, and he casts a Birds of Paradise before passing. Brian plays a Plains, and he passes. Joe pays 2 to cast a Grand Abolisher, and then plays a Selesnya Sanctuary, bouncing his Plains back to his hand. I draw a Forest and reveal another off the top, playing it off the top of my library and gaining 1 life. I then cast Lifecrafter's Bestiary, and moving to combat, hit Joe for 2 with the Courser. Tom plays a Flooded Grove and passes. Brian plays a Plains, and we see an Emiria Angel hit the field. Joe replays his Plains and casts his commander, Selvala, before passing to me. I scry the dragon off the top of my library thanks to my Bestiary, and I draw a Forest, which then reveals a mountain. I then play the mountain off the top, gaining 1, and cast Crystal Ball. I then reveal Swiftfoot Boots off the top because I'm a good boy, and I pass to Tom. Tom plays a Plains, and tapping out, drops a Gilded Lotus. Brian draws and can't find a 5th land. With nothing else, he has to pass. Joe draws for turn, and immediately taps his Selvala. We all reveal the top card, and he hits 3 non-land cards, gaining 3 life and 3 green mana. Joe then casts his Hooded Hydra, where X is 5, and passes. At the end of his turn, I use my Crystal Ball to scry 2 and bottom both. I reveal and draw a Soul Ring, which reveals a Beast Whisperer off the top. I play a mountain, gaining 1 life, and I cast Soul Ring. We then see me cast Reclamation Sage, and it hits the field, and I blow up Tom's newly cast Gilded Lotus. I then pay 2 for the Swiftfoot Boots, and I use my Arbor Elf to untap a Forest, then equip the boots onto the Courser. I then pass to Tom. Tom plays the Yavimaya Coast, and brings in Rubinia, and passes to Brian. Brian still can't find his 5th Plains, so he casts Voice of All in his main phase, and gives it protection from blue as it enters. Joe is also behind on lands, but thankfully he gets another 3 green mana and 3 life when he activates Selvala's Parlay. He then casts a Helm of Possession, and we've got a bit of a stealing standoff right now. I draw my mountain, and reveal Kamal off the top. I play the mountain, gaining 1 life, and then cast Beast Whisperer. We then see a Dawn-Treader Elk hit the field, which has me draw a card on cast from the Whisperer trigger. This reveals another mountain off the top, and I pass. Tom plays a Sea of Clouds as his land for turn, and Brian wonders what it'd be like if he had lands and mana. Tom then casts a Steel Shaper's Gift to go and find Helm of the Host, which frankly no one ever wants to see on their opponent's side of the table. With nothing else, Tom passes. Brian draws and discards Karmic Guide, passing turn. At the end of Brian's turn, Joe sacrifices his Hydra to the Helm of Possession, gaining 5 snake tokens as it dies and targeting Rubinia to steal. With the steal in the stack, Tom casts Swords to Plowshares, exiling Selvala. Joe untaps and lets his Helm untap, letting Rubinia go back to Tom. He has no land for turn, and has nothing to cast, so he passes. At the end of turn, while Joe is discarding down to 7, I sacrifice my Dawn Shredder Elk to grab the mountain off the top of my library and put it onto the field, gaining 1. I then shuffle and reveal Pathrazor of Ulamog off the top. I draw the Pathrazor and reveal a mountain, playing it off the top and gaining 1 life. I then bring out Papa Ruric Thar, and with my commander on the stack, Tom casts Eldamri's Call to go and find Deadeye Navigator, putting it to hand. I also pay 1 green to the bestiary to draw a card, and I then reveal Vicious Shadows off the top. With Ruric Thar hitting the field, I move the boots onto him, and then moving to combat, Ruric Thar is anxious to get in there, and he hits Tom for 6 commander damage, and I pass turn. Tom steals my Beast Whisperer on his upkeep with Rubinia, and he plays an untapped Hollow Fountain, taking 2. With the fountain trigger on the stack, Joe sacrifices a snake to his helm to steal Tom's Birds of Paradise, which Tom taps for 1 mana before letting it go. Tom then casts a Deadeye Navigator, and draws from the Beast Whisperer trigger. With nothing else, he passes to Brian. Brian spends a moment deciding whether or not he wants to take 12 damage from Ruric Thar this turn. He moves to combat, swinging a Merry Angel at me and the voice at Joe for 2. I block the Angel with Ruric Thar and take nothing. In his second main phase, Brian casts Soul Ring, taking 6 damage from Ruric Thar's trigger. This gives him enough mana to cast Rout, which has him take a further 6, but at least he'll be wiping the board. Joe responds to the board wipe with a Heroic Intervention, but Tom is ready with Flusterstorm, putting all the copies of it to target the intervention so Joe can't possibly pay enough for it. This also means that Joe and Tom both take 6 as well, and 24 damage from Ruric Thar in 1 turn without him even swinging is what I call not too shabby. Joe draws for turn and is missing those things we call lands. He casts an Eternal Witness in his main phase, and he brings back his Heroic Intervention to hand. With nothing else, he passes. I draw for turn, and I play a Forest, not gaining any life. I then recast Ruric Thar, and put the booties onto him once more. Moving to combat, Ruric Thar decides to go and say hi to Joe, but he gets stopped at the door by Eternal Witness, maybe next time. Tom plays a Brushland as his land for turn, and he brings out a Terastodon. He targets my Soul Ring, my Swiftfoot Boots, and Joe's helm to get blown up. Brian still can't seem to find those precious planes, and he has to settle for casting a Deathless Angel before passing to Joe. Joe plays a Tap Blossoming Sands as his land for turn, gaining 1 life as it comes in. He then casts a Mirror Entity and passes. At the end of turn, I scry with my ball and I bottom both. I draw for turn and I play a mountain. I pay 6 to cast a Brutalizer Exarch, and I go and find a creature and put it on top. I put Godot on top and I move to combat. Ruric Thar once more tries to go and meet Joe, but once again he's stopped, but this time by an elephant. With nothing else, I pass to Tom. Tom plays a Tap Celestial Colonnade as his land for turn, and infringes on Brian's territory by playing Sigarda, an angel, and he passes. Brian finally draws a land, and he plays a Seraph Sanctuary, gaining 1 as it enters. He then taps out to cast his commander, Bruna the Fading Light, and he gets to bring back an angel or human as he casts her. He targets to bring back the Karmic Guide, who gives him 1 life as it hits the field, and then gets to bring back Voice of All, which also gains him 1 more life, and he names green this time. Bruna then finally enters, and Brian gains another life, and with nothing else, he passes turn. Joe taps out for his turn to cast Asceticism in his main phase, taking 6 from Ruric Thar and passing turn. I play a Forest, and I pay 6 to cast Godot. I pay the 1 for the Bestiary trigger to draw a card, and then go tutor for an equipment. Sadly, John doesn't have Helm of the Host in his library, so I settle for Lightning Greaves. I put the Greaves onto Ruric Thar again, and I move to combat. I have to swing, but I feel badly for smashing at Joe the last few turns. Apparently not too badly though, as I do it again, and this time Joe takes the hit for 6. At the end of my turn, Tom takes 1 for tapping 1 of his pain lands for green, and then takes another 6 to cast Worldly Tutor from Ruric Thar. He goes to his library, and he grabs an Angel of Serenity, putting it on top. Tom draws the Angel for his turn, and he casts it in his main phase. He exiles his Deadeye Navigator from the graveyard, my Godot, and Brian's Deathless Angel. With nothing else, Tom passes. Brian plays a Plains for his turn, and he casts his Marshal's Anthem in his main phase, kicking it twice. This lets him bring back his Herald of War and the Emeria Angel, and as they enter, they both gain him 1 life. Moving to combat, Bruna then swings at me for 6, which I take. Joe plays a Command Tower as his land for turn, and passes to his combat step. I use my Crystal Ball, scrying 2 and keeping them both on top. In Joe's second main phase, he then recasts Selvala and passes turn. I draw for turn and I play a Forest. I then drop a Blood Moon because Tom needs to be taught a lesson for messing with my stuff. I then cast Kamal, paying the 1 green from the bestiary to draw a card. I then move to combat because I have to, and it doesn't make sense to swing Ruric Thar at anyone but Joe. He takes the hit again, and I pass turn. Tom casts a Helm of the Host in his main phase, taking 6 from Ruric Thar. He equips it onto his Terrastodon, and moving to combat makes a token copy of it. The token enters and blows up my Blood Moon, my Greaves, and my Bestiary, and with nothing else, Tom passes. Brian moves to combat again, swinging Bruna at me for 6, which I take. In his second main phase, he drops Radiant Archangel, gaining another life, and passes to Joe. Joe activates Selvala, and we all reveal a non-land card, giving Joe 4 life and 4 green mana. He then uses his floating mana and 2 white mana to cast Elspeth's Sun's Champion. Joe takes 6 from this, but he then downticks his Walker to blow up all the big creatures on the field. With the Angel's Serenity dying, all the creatures underneath it go to their owner's hands. Joe then casts an Intangible Virtue, and with nothing else passes. I draw for turn and cast Garruk, Caller of Beasts. I uptick him, and I reveal the top 5, and I get to keep all the creatures I reveal, which consists of Dragon Broodmother and Farhaven Elf. I then move to combat, swinging the very elephants that Tom gave me as the way to take him out, which I find oddly satisfying. In my second main phase, I cast Dragon Broodmother, and I pass turn. On Brian's upkeep, I get a dragon token, and Brian moves to combat. He swings the 2 angels at Garruk, one of which gets blocked by the Broodmother, but I can't stop the voice as it has protection from green. Garruk takes the hit, and Joe regenerates the Karmic Guide because he knows that Brian wants it to die. Brian then casts Urzin's Incubator, naming angels, and finishes off his turn by casting Winds of Wrath. He passes, warning us that his deck's about 20% board wipes, and we haven't seen the last one. Joe casts a Doubling Season in his main phase, and he upticks Elspeth to make 6 soldiers. He then passes, and at the end of turn, I scry 2. I play a Forest for my turn, and I cast Pathrazer of Ulamog. I then drop a Manglehorn and blow up the Urza's Incubator because I like my elephants. I then uptick Garruk again, keeping Scourge of the Throne and Craterhoof Behemoth from what I reveal. Brian plays a Plains for his turn, and he casts Breath of Life to bring back its Karmic Guide, gaining 1 life. The Karmic Guide brings back Radiant, gaining him another life. Brian then drops a Baneslayer Angel and gains a 3rd life before passing to Joe. Joe plays a Temple of Plenty, scrying 1. He leaves it on top and upticks Elspeth, making 6 soldier tokens, and passes to me. I activate my Crystal Ball on my upkeep, scrying 2, and keeping 1 on top and putting 1 to the bottom. I then cast Sarkhan Vol and follow up with Scourge of the Throne. I downtick Sarkhan Vol, stealing the Baneslayer Angel and giving it haste. I then also downtick Garruk, which kills him, to put out Craterhoof Behemoth. This has all of my creatures get +5/+5 and trample. Moving to combat, I have to pick who I want to kill. For his next turn, Joe will probably be swinging at me for at least 24, which I can probably survive, but Brian had just said that he runs a ton of board wipes, which would set me back far worse. I decide to go for Brian, swinging everything at him. It's enough to take him out, and I gain 10 life from the Baneslayer Angel, passing to Joe. Joe draws for turn and plays a Sunpetal Grove. He then casts a Beastmaster's Ascension, and I realize I picked the wrong player. Joe then simply has to turn his army of soldiers sideways, who all get beefed up to become 7/7s, and I die. Game review time. So, it was certainly interesting to see Rubinia when there was another steal effect on the board. Tom wasn't really able to effectively use her, since neither Tom nor Joe were effectively able to use the steal effects, and that kinda led to a bit of a stalemate. Good on Brian for bringing out his mono-white tribal angel deck, which is probably one of the hardest tribes to run with. They're certainly some of the strongest creatures, but that strength also comes with a huge price tag. I don't mean monetarily, unfortunately they cost a lot of mana. I did enjoy the sequence when he cast Bruna to bring back the Karmic Guide to bring back the Voice of All. That was pretty spicy, and he gained 3 life from doing it too. I still maintain that he was the proper target to kill, since the board wipe would have set me back so much further. I didn't know that Joe had the Beastmaster Ascension in his hand, and I should have probably expected it, but what can you do? Joe's a sneaky devil, luring me into a false sense of security, all the while having a powerful effect in his hand, but you gotta give it to him. He played the cards right, and he had the right answers at the right time, so he won the game, and I can't fault him for that. I'd also like to thank John for lending me his Ruric Thar deck. It was a lot of fun. I really like punishing people for casting non-creature spells, and 6 damage is huge. It actually inspired me for one of the decks that I'm about to play in the EDH lounge, so look forward to that in the future. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta, You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/mtgmudsta, and lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/mtgmudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.